Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the R&B Show. My name is Bruce Cologne. Thanks for joining us today. So before getting started on today's video, I wanted to take a moment to send out a huge thank you to all of the new subscribers to the channel. Been very happy to see everyone jump aboard and share their comments and their thoughts. And more important than anything else, really, it's about building this community of fellow passionate music lovers. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, thank you for taking the time to do so, and hopefully you like what you see. So for today's video, I wanted to continue my series on Paul McCartney's live history and delve deeper into what I consider to be the most significant tour of Paul's career, and that is the Paul McCartney World Tour of 1989/90. While the 76 tour was critical in establishing Paul's status outside the Beatles, proving that he could stand on his own, and at some point I do hope to get into the 76 tour in a future video. It was really the 89/90 tour that not only reestablished Paul as a touring behemoth once again, but it was also the tour where Paul finally made peace with his Beatles past. And the show has pretty much been the template that he's used ever since, for good and bad, which we'll get into throughout the video. I'll be referring to a few notes because there are certain key, cornerstones leading up to the tour that we're going to get into. The first being really the seeds for this tour started with the Flowers in the Dirt album, also from 1989. This is where Paul collaborated with Elvis Costello on many of the songs that would be spread out over subsequent solo albums of theirs. There was definitely some Beatle energy in the air with these sessions. The collaboration reminded Paul of working with John Lennon, which he said, many times since in multiple interviews. Costello brought that similarly caustic style to the sessions. There was more Beatlesque quality control with this album, less filler. The first single, My Brave Face, had that 12-string Rickenbacker chime, familiar to anyone, who are fans of that early 64, 65 Beatles era. But probably more importantly, at least on a symbolic level, per Costello's requests, we got the return of the iconic Hofner Beatle bass, with that immaculate, thumpy, flat wound string tone. All of these were elements that would set the stage for the world tour to follow. And it was basically Paul's first time in the United States in 13 years. And really the first tour since the Wings UK tour of 79 that was cut short. So the set list for the 89/90 shows was, in my opinion, the perfect balance between Beatles songs, which was about, I think, 50% of the set, and rightfully so. The best Wings tracks, solo, and then the best material off the new album. It was also my first opportunity to see him live, which I did in December of 1989 in Chicago at the Rosemont Horizon. And then again the following year for the final show of the tour at Soldier Field. Admittedly, crappy seats both times. I actually had a better view of the concession stand than I did of Paul. But you know what? I was there, and I was happy to be so. It was also kind of surreal seeing Paul in person, in the flesh, for the first time after my entire childhood of Beatle worship. He looked great, he sounded great, and this was first apparent in the Put It There documentary that was released shortly before the tour started. This was a documentary in which we got to see Paul rehearsing with his first post-Wings touring band. They're rehearsing, they're playing stuff off of Flowers in the Dirt. He was around 47 at the time, I believe, and his voice sounds amazing in that documentary, from the crooning to the belting, incredible, still killing it. This tour was also the first time that fans got to hear many Beatles songs for the first time performed live. Since the Beatles had quit touring in '66, a lot of that late era stuff never got performed live. You had songs like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Full on the Hill, Hey Jude, and the Golden Slumbers medley. And this show definitely made that a real treat for fans who had never gotten that opportunity. And it was also a triumph for Paul after definitely some lean years in the mid 80s. You know, he was finally back on top where he rightfully belonged. So how does all of this tie into his tours today? You know, once Paul re-embraced his Beatles past, in many ways, I think Paul began to see himself as the, I guess, primary custodian of the legacy. You know, George was still with us, but other than a short tour of Japan in 1991 with Eric Clapton, he didn't really go back out on the road. He was never a road warrior. You know, it just never suited him. And I believe he's the one that really pushed hardest for the Beatles to quit touring in '66. And eventually they all kind of saw the logic of it in light of the kind of craziness of the fandom and, you know, all these other circumstances at the time. Ringo obviously has toured consistently with his all-star band, but is obviously limited in which Beatles songs he plays. And also, I think once the Beatles anthology came out in 1995, Paul really became sort of the living Beatle for many. So, you know, as a result of this and the success of the 89-90 tour, he's kept to a very, very similar template for his tours, you know, except for an even lesser emphasis on new material. You know, if you saw Paul on the 89-90 tour, you've heard the majority of songs that he still performs to this day, you know, particularly the Wings and Beatles tracks. There's really been little variation or surprise since then. And since that 89-90 tour, he has gone on to play most of his Beatles catalog in those tours, particularly the songs that are less dependent on John's co-singing. But there really are only a few exceptions left, which surprisingly have not surfaced in these past two tours. Songs like Martha My Dear, Oh Darling, which I definitely understand because of the strain, and, you know, even, you know, Prime Paul, it's a difficult song to pull off on a tour night after night. So I definitely understand why we're not seeing that one these days. I also understand why we're not seeing the non-family friendly Why Don't We Do It in the Road. But I'm surprised we haven't heard Honey Pie. And then another early Beatles gem, What You're Doing, which I pushed for in my set list video a while back. But, you know, the truth is, whether hardcore fans like it or not, you know, it's the big hits that pay the bills, that fill the arenas, fill the stadiums. And all that stuff is what a mass audience wants to hear. And, you know, again, Paul's taking the approach with most of these tours that is people seeing him for the first time. He's definitely not going to cater to hardcores. You know, these fans, they want to hear Hey Jude. They want to hear Yesterday. You know, they don't want to hear Montgomery Moon Delight as much as some of us hardcores would love it. You know, to be fair, again, I don't expect Paul to completely overhaul his current set list. But I do think there is room to switch out at least 5 or 6 songs just to keep things fresh. He can definitely afford that. But again, if not that, then another good alternative and something that I've been pushing for a while is, you know what, do at least one theater or club show, you know, with all alternate songs, stream it, you know, film it for Blu-ray, and, you know, that way you have it on posterity and never have to bother doing it again. It's accessible to all of us who want to dip into it and see it. One and done, and, you know, all of us hardcores can quit our bitching, or at the very least move on to some fresh gripes. But yeah, so this next message is directly to you, Paul, if you're watching. And why wouldn't you be, right? Why wouldn't you on your downtime be checking out this obscure YouTube channel? But anyway, if you wish to bring me on board MPL as a tour consultant, I promise you I'll keep the fees reasonable, especially since most of us know you're pretty strapped for cash these days, okay? So yeah, just throwing that out there, just saying. But anyway, until I get that call, and that might actually be quite a while, I want to thank all of you for watching and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. That definitely helps with the YouTube algorithms, you know, fickle beast that it is. It helps with recognition. Please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new content. Feel free to share with fellow fans. And most of all, share your comments and your feedback. You know, this channel is really, it's not about us, it's about all of you. And I do take the time to read and respond, and I enjoy all of the feedback. Also, if you get time, there's additional McCartney and Beatles related videos on my channel. So, take the time to check those out. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you again soon. As I mentioned in my last video, we'll be seeing my partner in crime, Ron, return. And we'll be doing a few videos covering some new content that's hitting not only Disney Plus, but also theaters. We're going to be checking out the premiere of the Obi-Wan show. I think it's the first 2 episodes that dropped this Friday. And also the Top Gun sequel, Maverick. And then I will also continue pumping out the classic rock content. So again, thank you all for taking the time to watch. And we'll be seeing all of you again very, very soon. Until then, stay safe, take care. Until next time.